The sitting has resumed. Senator Reverend Dr. Rogers.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for this opportunity to speak on this humanitarian award and the Gold Award. I promise to be extremely brief, so without prolonging the discussion too much, I just wish to make my jump-off point where Senator Cummings would have made hers in her introduction, where she spoke of the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. And I know that we cannot do it right now as we're in the midst of this one, but I suspect sometime in the future, people will find that COVID-19 has been just as destructive as the Spanish flu, though we pray that by God's grace, the loss of life will not be as much as it would have been in 1918. And the reason why I say this is because of where we are in the 21st century in our development in medicine, but yet this pandemic has had the ability to confound the world. And in spite of all of our technology and developments, we're still losing lives daily as a result. It speaks to how dangerous this could have been had it been in an era when we did not have these types of technological advances. But that's something for the historians to look back at some point in time. What I do wish to make the point today about is that I wish to once again commend the people of Barbados for their response to this pandemic, and we've heard over and over the response of our government, the Minister of Health, our czar, our health officials, and all the other persons involved, the frontline workers. I wish to make the point that true humanitarianism does not simply come from people following their job description, but it comes from something deep within, a sense of empathy, a sense of love and compassion for the well-being of others. And I know Senator Cummings would have referenced the motto of her service group, the Rotary, doing for someone who can do nothing for you in return. But I do wish to remind Senator Cummings that that is not unique to the Rotary, that the Rotary may have gotten it from somewhere else. Perhaps Luke chapter 14 and verse 13.
All right.
Where our Lord said, when you keep a banquet, invite the poor and the lame and those who cannot invite you to anything. Mm-hmm. In other words, reach out to those who can give nothing to you. And so it does not surprise me that Barbados' response to this pandemic would have been what it was, being a community so deeply grounded in the Christian faith. In fact, when we speak of the Barbadian spirit, we speak of a deep sense of commitment to God, but it is one also grounded in our philosophy of governance, of social democracy, where every generation recognizes that it has profited from the one before and has an obligation for the one that comes after. And so we have ingrained in us through our faith and through our politics the construct that we are each other's keeper. And that is what made our response to this pandemic such. So if it was up to me, I would probably give a humanitarian award to everyone in Barbados, because each person in their own little way, save one or two who might have kept a little party here or there, and we saw them in the papers, but that's for them. But when we were told to wear our masks, we masked up. When we were told to practice our social distancing, we did that. When we were told to close our churches, we did so. When we were told to comply with everything the lockdown brought, many people did that. And a lot of positive things came out of it. And so the whole concept of this humanitarian award and the Gold Award really speaks to the essence of Barbadianism. I wish to join with my colleagues in the Senate in commending all those who've been on the front line, all those who put themselves out there when we knew very little of what was going on, but they believed that they had a duty to their fellow human beings in this country. And so I salute them all. I do share the concern of Senator Franklin concerning the number of different awards being created, though not for the same reason. I have no reason to believe that the motive behind these awards is nothing but pure. My concern, however, lies, as he would have pointed out at some point in time, though we recognize that these particular awards are one-off awards, would be the dilution of the value and the quality of the awards we give in the country, but that's something else to look at. I believe that given the unprecedented nature of our pandemic here in the world, these awards are, as they've been pointed out, should be one-off and relating specifically to the prevailing circumstances presented by COVID-19. And so in that regard, I support these awards. However, as I promised, I'll be brief, for much of what I have to say has been said already. I noticed that though we recognize the pandemic is not over, in some speeches there may have been an almost undertone of celebration. The pandemic is not over. It is far from over. And we have done well here thus far. We've all put our hands to the plow. We have done what we had to do to make sure that we protected each other. But let us not drop our guard at this time. As Senator Nurse would have pointed out, there's a vaccine on the way, but it's not here yet. Humanitarianism is still necessary and will have to be ongoing in the coming year. There are still many persons who have lost their jobs. There's still many persons who will not be able to support their families. There's still many people who will not know where the next meal for their children will be coming from. And this will go on for a long time, perhaps in the coming year, because where tourism, our mainstay, is regarded, we have to wait until others sneeze so that we can catch the cold, so that something can reach to us. So there will be some time before any sense of normalcy returns to Barbados. And therefore, we must continue to be each other's keeper. I do not want to put a damper on the festive season, but just to make the point that notice that this year will be what Dolly Parton would have referred to as a hard candy Christmas for some people. It will not be easy. And so we have to remember our brothers and sisters in the hospitality industry, those who have been out of work for a long time, those children who will not have the joy of receiving presents this year as they would have in the past. And here I wish to, if you would permit me, Mr. President, thank all the people who attended the toy service at St. George Parish Church yesterday and brought their toys for the children who are less fortunate, so that we can bring some joy to their lives this Christmas. I wish to thank them for their offerings publicly. And I know that many more will be doing similar services throughout the season. But let us continue to be vigilant. Let us continue to keep our hands on this pandemic. When we meet with our families and friends this year, let us wear our masks, practice our social distancing, do what is necessary to make sure that we keep things under control here on the island. And with that, if you would permit me, sir, I wish to extend happy holidays to the people of Barbados. Merry Christmas for those who are Christian, but those who observe the solstice or some other season around this time of year, I wish them every blessing as well, that it may truly be one of peace and love. And though we may not have much on our tables, at least there'll be a lot of love around the table. And I pray that for every family in this nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Reverend Dr. Rogers, and same to you, and yours as well.
Thank you.
Senator Greenwich.
Thank you, Mr. President. I begin this very short contribution by saying that after more than 2 years, I find myself agreeing with some comments made by Senator Franklin.
On the point of order?
And Mr. President, Senator Franklin was being pretty frank, pretty truthful too. Then he said that he has heard, I have heard them too, certain comments to the fact that some of our awards, especially the awards at a national level, are given to those persons who have given financial support to respective political parties. I have heard that comment. I have heard the comment too that even at the level of those who serve on boards, there is some political bias. That you're always giving to those who are friends of the respective parties, to those who are former candidates of the parties, and that some of our awards are laced with partisan politics. I have heard it. I've even heard it said, sir, that some of those who get awards did not deserve the awards. And I'm not going to stand in the Senate and say, I'd never heard that. I would be a hypocrite if I did that. But I thought that that is where Senator Franklin would have said, but praise the Lord, this particular humanitarian award is not like that. I thought that that is where we would make that little departure. It didn't come. Mr. President, sir, this is a different type of award. I was saying, yes, he is going to say that, and now he will support it. This humanitarian award, Mr. President, this is being awarded to persons without any political trappings whatsoever. No political trappings here or there. There is no political implication or attachment to this particular award. It is not about party. It is not about friendship. It is about a person giving service to the country. Someone you can identify did this or did that for the country. And so, Mr. President, the overarching point which I want to make is that this is the essence of what an award or an honor should be. What you have done, the essence of someone who deserves an award for what the person has done. This award, sir, is not about raw politics. It is about raw leadership. And indeed, I was extremely moved and impressed by the contribution made by Senator Nurse. And he made the point that all through this crisis, Barbados has been well led. Well led. This is about raw governance. About raw governance. Mr. President, you know, and I know that all during the pandemic, people were working and working hard, and that they should be recognized for the valiant efforts that they had been making. And let me say, when I say recognize, Mr. President, I do not mean just at 6 p.m. in the evening. Every evening we had in various districts the young people, 5-year-old, coming with the saucepans and banging and saying, we recognize you. But that is, I commend them for it. But that is not the recognition that those people deserve. This is taking it to a different level. Yes, as I said, it was a welcome gesture. And I'm not trying to poo-poo their effort. It was a welcome gesture, but it was not enough. And I think that what we are trying to do here, sir, is a much better way to make those persons feel, make them know that what they did for Barbados is appreciated. As I said, sir, I was extremely impressed when Senator Nurse spoke about the leadership. This is a government, sir, that is always thinking. The foresight, for instance, sir, of having prepared that isolation center in St. Lucie with Mr. Steinbock and his group. A government always thinking, whether it be the welcome stamp, whether it be helping those on the cruise ships, whether it be the BOSS program, whether it was accommodating Trinidadians who could not get home. Always having good ideas. And you know, sir, and while the government is always looking for a new and a workable idea, Mr. President, there are those whose only idea is to criticize and to find fault, whose motto seems to be, when you don't have ideas, criticize other people's own. Some of us are like that. And sometimes when they speak like that, sir, they do not even realize they are saying the opposite of what their leader is saying. Mr. President, yes, I too can identify those who are on the front line, and they're easy to spot, easy to recognize. You know, these are the ones who never drop the ball. Everybody has mentioned those connected to the best Dos Santos, the ones who did the tests. Those at the isolation center who managed the COVID patients. Those who drove from the airport to the quarantine center. All of those, as I said, who literally served on the front line. And as Senator Nurse said, perhaps while they were doing their work, they too had ringing in their ears the words of the Minister of Health: no retreat and no surrender. Those words mean a lot to Barbadians. This award, Mr. President, has nothing to do about getting votes. Has nothing to do about any cult. No, sir. If the Prime Minister of this country, Mr. President, was a lazy person, a person without ideas, that particular comment could never have been made. The only reason that that comment is being made is because it is a Prime Minister that is always working. That's the only reason that it can be made. Senator Nurse spoke about how our Prime Minister came out of her sick bed to address the nation during the pandemic. And instead of some of us saying, well, we thank her for that, no, we criticize her in a most disrespectful way. And you know, I know what some people are aiming to do. I know it. I can feel it, I can see it, and I know other people can too. Because in the criticism, you would have heard about the G4S, and you would have heard about the supermarket, the hotel on the West Coast that I went there to represent a security guard, and I went to Purity and the people come and have my forms and so on. He knows what he's doing, you know. He knows what he is in here to do. The improper motive he ascribes to somebody else. But he knows what he's doing full well. He knows what he's doing full well.
He did not do anything to you. He said he would do it to somebody else.
Mr. President, as I said, sir, these are persons who went that extra mile. This is about persons who virtually put themselves in danger for us. Some of them, I heard the 3 people from the Defense Force speaking yesterday at a presentation I think they had. And I think one of the names is the name like Rudolph, because I remember it, because I think that's piece of my name too. Rudolph Morris, I think that was the name. But he was saying how there were some things at the stage of exhaustion, and they still decided to keep going on. He said sometimes they were at the stage of burnout, and they still continued to work and to work for them. They kept pressing on. Mr. President, this is a genuine award, sir. It is an award of truth. Their job description, Mr. President, did not say to climb up on a 40-foot ladder alongside a ship. Their job description never said that. These are people who went beyond the call of duty and outside their job description. People, Mr. President, who perform jobs that they were not trained for. Jobs they were not trained for, jobs that perhaps they never anticipated they would ever be called upon to perform. Yet when we come to honor them, sir, we can still have people that can be saying this is about vote catching. These are people who did extraordinary things, Mr. President. And one of the regular critics of this government has said that he thinks that we are watering down the awards somewhat. But the point has been made, and I will emphasize it again, that this is a one-off award. It has a specific window. It is not an annual award that you're going to be given year after year after year. This is an appreciation award by Barbados to Barbadians who did a fantastic job for Barbadians during a very trying period. It is a wonderful idea. And Mr. President, let me say it too.
Mr. President, on a point of order, I'm not seeing what Senator Gwynn is saying in the bill, so he's misleading the House or the bill that you sent to me is the wrong one. This bill, if I can remember correctly, let me pull it up. It says, in the objects and reasons for this bill, it says this bill would provide for the conferment of an award to be known as the Barbados Humanitarian Service Award on persons who are deserving of recognition for their meritorious humanitarian service to Barbados and for related matters. Sir, I suspect that if that were the case for one-off thing, the bill would say so. And it isn't saying so. This is a bill that people will get awards when the year comes until this act is repealed.
Thank you, Senator Franklin. Senator Greenwich.
Yes. As I was saying, sir, before that interruption, my concern, Mr. President, is about the logistics, and I share the view of, again, Senator Nurse, simply because I know that there are scores of persons who answered the call, and there is a possibility that there's so many people involved in the matter and so many people who have made this kind of contribution that there's a possibility that a name could be inadvertently left out. I say that with the full knowledge, Mr. President, that there is no perfection in anything. We are aiming, sir, to give all who played a part in saving this country this award. And we do not want it to appear as though we are favoring a few. So, Mr. President, we may therefore have to depend on the owners of businesses, the owners of supermarkets and gas stations and so on, to provide the names of those who not only came out to work, but work as though their future and the future of this nation, really, future and the safety of this country depended and it was safe, in their hands. So we are going to need accurate data, and there must be a strategy, Mr. President, to obtain that data. And I do believe that some onus should be on the employer to provide the data to us. I close by saying that it might therefore appear to be a daunting task. But I do believe, sir, that we can do it. And we will endeavor, sir, to do it the best way we can. We have enough skilled organizers in this country to get this event properly organized so that it can be meaningful, not only to those who receive the award, but to all Barbadians generally. I'm obliged to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Senator Greenwich. Senator Grant.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not intend to be long in my remarks, but I did not want this opportunity to pass without lending my voice in support of this bill. Of course, sir, as you know, the bill provides for the conferment of an award to be known as the Barbados Humanitarian Service Award on persons who are deserving of recognition for their meritorious humanitarian service in Barbados and for related matters. And I just want to stress on the word meritorious, because that word, sir, properly conveys to us that there must be merit. And there are many persons who have spoken before me, Mr. President, that have made reference to the many Barbadian workers who, through their selflessness, who through their courage, who through their commitment throughout the COVID-19 environment sought to ensure that they kept Barbados going. And I want, sir, to join with other honorable senators in acknowledging those persons, in recognizing the significant work and the worth of their work without thinking of themselves, but putting the country first. Sir, I heard comments from one senator relating to building a cult around the Prime Minister. I couldn't believe my ears, sir. I could not believe my ears. And you know, sir, every single time I hear that senator speak, I hear reference to there's no need for this piece of legislation. Any action that needs to be done can be taken. Look, this piece of legislation exists already. You don't need to do it under this. Every single time. And you know, sir, sometimes I say to myself, I wonder if we follow that reasoning, what are we doing here? The truth is, Mr. President, that there's a lot of work that has been undertaken by Parliament. And there's a lot of legislation that has been put in place, necessary legislation. And sir, I want to join in support of this piece of legislation because I believe that it is important for persons who throughout COVID-19, the supermarket workers, the security guards, the hotel operators, the maids, the housekeepers, all of them, I believe, sir, that it is important that we are able to recognize them and to acknowledge them for the good, sir, that they have done. And I'm in full support, sir, of this piece of legislation. Sir, but as I reflect on the COVID-19 pandemic experiences, and I reflect, sir, on what these frontline workers have done, it causes me to think of what it means to be Barbadian. And it causes me, sir, to reflect on the spirit of community. And sir, I would have said in this chamber already growing up in Haggett Hall, I remember my grandmother baking sweetbread. Oh, sir, what a lovely sweetbread she baked. And I would have, sir, to get on the bicycle. And I had to carry sweetbread for Miss Jills. I had to carry sweetbread for Joman. I had to carry sweetbread for Gwen. I had to carry sweetbread for Miss Motley. I had to carry sweetbread throughout the community. And sir, when persons had to harvest the ground provisions, sweet potato, yams, edders, what have you, there was a community spirit where people gave. And I want, sir, to use this occasion to encourage Barbadians to get back to that community spirit. Mr. President, I spent some time recently, whenever I could on Sundays, watching a program on CBC. It's called My Community, I believe that's what it was called. My Community St. George. Sir, you might know that. My Community Christchurch, you might know that too, sir. My Community St. Philip. My Community wherever. Talking about the Barbadian community, what has happened historically within the community. And sir, if there is one element that was common throughout, it was that element, sir, of people giving and people sharing. That, sir, is part of the Barbadian spirit, and I believe that now is a good time to encourage Barbadians to get back, sir, to that aspect. There's no doubt, sir, that COVID-19 has caused significant hardships for many Barbadians. Persons have lost their jobs. Persons, sir, their income has been significantly reduced. Minister Cummings, in her introduction, spoke to issues with respect to meetings with workers, sir. And there were those, sir, and I can attest that I was there. There are those, sir, who had tears in their eyes when they listened, sir, to what was happening with respect to workers. And we have to embrace, sir, the fact that we are our brother's keeper. We have to embrace the fact, sir, of what COVID-19 has demonstrated to us, that we are very dependent on one another. Mr. President, I believe it is in the gospel according to Matthew, chapter 25, verses 35 to 40. I believe, sir, those theologians around amongst us can correct me, where there was reference to the fact that, you know, when Jesus said, when I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. And the question was asked, when did we give you food? When did we give you drink? There's a lot more to it than that, sir, but I'm just referencing those elements. And Jesus used words to the effect that you have done it to the least amongst us, you have done it to me. And I go back, sir, to the point that I made initially, for all of us, sir, to come back to the recognition of what Christmas is about. And particularly at this time of Christmas, to reflect on that meaning. Sir, not talking about Santa Claus and gifts. Sir, in fact, I'm remembering a book, sir, by Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol. There was a character in that book, Ebenezer Scrooge. So I know that none of us in here are like Ebenezer Scrooge. But there was a lesson in that book with respect to the past, the present, and the future. And by the end of those experiences, Ebenezer Scrooge understood the importance of Christmas. Let us, sir, as we salute the frontline workers, and I stand today, sorry, I salute the frontline workers. As we do that, let us also recognize that this is a time when many Barbadians are going through hardships and difficulties. And yes, sir, while government has taken the right measures in order to assist and to help Barbadians, let us also, in our own individual ways, find those things that we can do to also help those Barbadians that are less fortunate than ourselves. Sir, with those few words, I give my full support to this bill.
Thank you very much, Senator Grant. Senator Cummings.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I want to express the appreciation of the government of Barbados and all the members on this side for the comments in support of this important bill. I wish to respond and to provide some clarity on some of the questions which were raised. You would recall that we started out this debate as a cognate debate, and so we have the Humanitarian Service Award and the amendment to the Gold Award of Achievement Act. And so I would wish to point out, Mr. President, that in the existing act, certainly on the Gold Award of Achievement Act, the legislation currently as stands reads as follows. It is eligible to be given to a person who during each year preceding National Heroes Day through diligent sacrifice and so on. The specific timing of the award has been deleted in the amendment. And so therefore the new draft, which is before you in this current bill, simply speaks to the eligibility for conferment to a person who through diligence and so on. It does not give a timeline. And in the second instance, the legislation currently as drafted speaks about the conferment on National Heroes Day. Again, this has also been removed and has now been replaced instead with the words as follows: an eligible person at a time determined by the Cabinet of Barbados. And so the notion that there is in full or in part a duplication of this bill with what is already in place, and that in any way it dilutes the provision of awards on Independence Day or any other special day, is not in fact based in the amendment that is before us today, certainly not in the Gold Crown of Achievement Award and in the new Humanitarian Award, which does not have a conferment time at any specific special occasion during the course of the year. And I would wish to have that corrected from those who may not have taken an opportunity to go through the two respective bills, both in their old and their new format. Mr. President, I also wish to take a moment to respond to what I would best call Senator Franklin's stock speech. It is rushed, not needed, unnecessary. If we're talking about the price of rice in China, Mr. President, it is the same speech. If we're talking about financial reform and economic development, it is the same speech. If we're talking about labor relations, Mr. President, it is the same speech. It is an attack speech that is reserved on each and every occasion, Mr. President, that the honourable member rises to speak on any subject in this House. And after some time, Mr. President, I am confident that the people of Barbados will grow as tired of it as we are. Now, Mr. President, I want to respond nonetheless to a number of specific things which were raised. My colleague, Senator Grant, spoke ably about the work which is being done by the government of Barbados, and Senator Greenidge in great detail recapped the work which has been done by our Prime Minister, who is recognized not by the Barbados Labour Party, not only by the people of Barbados across all political lines, but has been recognized globally by countries, international organizations, and world leaders the world over for her stellar leadership of this country during this pandemic. The only person who is in some way unclear about the level of leadership that is attributed to our Prime Minister is the Honourable Leader of the Opposition Business in the Senate. But that is okay, Mr. President, because we are in no danger of being led by a party that just a few weeks ago was able to garner no more than 1.69% of the popular vote and 80 votes of a potential 9,000 votes, Mr. President, because the people of Barbados are very clear about what vision and progress looks like. And it is in this administration, led by the Barbados Labour Party, led by the Prime Minister of Barbados. And the people are also very clear, Mr. President, that there are a number of things that this administration has done in service to this country during this pandemic. We are not fiddling while Rome burns. There's no Nero on this side, Mr. President. In fact, if there was a Nero and we were fiddling, Rome, as it is being called, would not have a BEST program where $300 million of funds were put into ensuring that the thousands of workers in the tourism sector could be re-engaged by companies. If we were fiddling, Mr. President, there would be no opportunity for digitization in dated hotel plants, including renewable energy upgrades to their physical infrastructure. If Rome was burning indeed and Nero was fiddling, there would not be a BOSS program that allowed for a recalculation, and there would be no adjustment with the IMF program under BERT, and still being able to meet our adjusting standards in the middle of in the middle of a global pandemic. If Nero was fiddling while Rome around us was burning, Mr. President, there would not be a stimulus packages for specific sectors. Neither would there be interaction with the Pan American Health Organization, the World Health Organization. The Prime Minister would not be able to speak and say publicly that a deposit has been made to ensure that 60,000 vaccines will be made available once the relevant international agencies have signed over. There is no fiddling in this administration, Mr. President. In fact, the Minister of Agriculture has spoken about boosting agricultural production. The Prime Minister has ensured that we are in a position to have food security, certainly as it relates to our agricultural production, so a nation which dealt with, at the beginning of this pandemic, interruptions, potential and actual, in supplies being given to our country, would not be in a position where food would not be able to reach our tables. We would not have partnerships with shipping lines, Mr. President. This is the leadership of the Barbados Labour Party. There is no Nero. While Rome may be burning globally, this country has done all that it can do to make sure that with a fire engine in the hands of a Prime Minister who is never far away from its leadership, from its steering wheel, we have kept the flames at bay, even as they have threatened to engulf us, and they have engulfed others. And I am incredibly proud of this administration. And it is unfortunate that in a moment where I started out my introduction of these two bills, Mr. President, by speaking about us rising to the occasion, knowing when it's time to lay down our arms, knowing when it's time to put aside political strife and political immaturity and to rise to the occasion of our nation, that we would then be followed by a speech that at best can be described as embarrassing and at worst outrageous. This is not that moment. This is not that time. It has never been that moment, Mr. President, and in this time it will never be that time. And as we stand to salute the thousands of Barbadians who did recognize what time it was, whether it was in their course of the job, when they went above and beyond the call of duty, as Senator Greenidge said, or whether it was those that just stood up and said, here I am, use me, this is that moment. And we are very proud as an administration, and we're very appreciative of the support given by our colleagues across the aisle for this measure. And with these words, Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill be read a second time.
Senators, whilst we had one debate, there are two bills before, so therefore deal with order number. Put the question separately. Yes, so we're dealing with, first deal with the humanitarian bill. So the question is that the Barbados Humanitarian, let's get the right name of the bill. Barbados Humanitarian Service Award Act 2020, we read a second time. So, read a second time. Those honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. President, I beg to move that Your Honour do not leave the chair and the Senate dissolves itself into a committee for the further consideration of this bill. The
question is that I do not leave the chair and the Honourable Senate resolve itself in the committee for further consideration of this bill. Those honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
The Senate is in committee.
Clause 1.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 1 stand part.
The question is that Clause 1 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 2.
I beg to move that Clause 2 stand part.
The question is that Clause 2 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 3.
I beg to move that Clause 3 stand part.
The question is that Clause 3 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 4.
I beg to move that Clause 4 stand part.
The question is that Clause 4 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 5.
I beg to move that Clause 5 stand part.
The question is that Clause 5 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 6.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 6 stand part.
The question is that Clause 6 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 7.
I beg to move that Clause 7 stand part.
The question is that Clause 7 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 8.
I move that Clause 8 stand part.
The question is that Clause 8 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Report.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Your Honor do report to the Honourable President that the passage of one bill in committee.
The question is that I do now report to His Honour the President the passing of one bill in committee. All senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
The chairman has reported to me the passing of one bill in committee.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill be read a third time.
The question is that this bill be read a third time. Those honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. President, I beg to move the passage of one bill and having it so cited as the Barbados Humanitarian Service Award Act 2020.
The question is that this bill will pass and be cited as the Barbados Humanitarian Service Award Act 2020. Those honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This bill is so passed and so cited.
Order number 4, sir.
Order number 4.
In the name of the Honourable Acting Leader of the Senate, to move the second reading of the Gold Award of Achievement Amendment Bill 2020.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill be read a second time.
The question is that this bill be read a second time. Those honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. Committee.
Mr. President, I beg to move that Your Honour do not leave the chair and the Senate dissolve itself into a committee for further consideration of this bill.
The question is that I do not leave the chair and the Honourable Senate resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill. Those honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
The Senate is now in committee.
Clause 1.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 1 stand part.
The question is that Clause 1 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 2.
Mr. President, I beg to move that Clause 2 stand part.
The question is that Clause 2 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clause 3.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Clause 3 stand part.
The question is that Clause 3 stand part. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that you report to His Honour the President the passage of one bill in committee.
The question is that I do now report to His Honour the President the passing of one bill in committee. Honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
The chairman has reported to me the passing of one bill in committee.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill do now pass, that this bill be read a third time.
The question is that this bill be read a third time. Those honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill do not pass and be cited as the Gold Award of Achievement Act, Cap 401. Amendment. Amendment.
The question is that this bill do not pass and be cited as the Gold Award of Achievement Amendment Act 2020. Those honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This bill is now passed and so cited.
Order number 2, sir.
Order number 2.
In the name of the Honourable Acting Leader of the Senate, to move the passing of a resolution to approve, in accordance with Section 5 of the Crown Lands Vesting and Disposal Act, Chapter 225, the vesting in the Barbados Tourism Investment, Inc., a company incorporated on the Companies Act, Chapter 308, of the parcel of land, the property of the Crown, situate at Bay Street, in the parish of St. Michael in this island, for the public purpose of tourism development.
Senator Cummings.
Mr. President, I rise on this occasion to request the support of the Honourable Chamber for a resolution to vest approximately 24.5 square meters of land at Bay Street, St. Michael, in the Barbados Tourism Investment, Inc., a company wholly owned by the Government of Barbados for the purpose of tourism development. Mr. President, you will recall that sometime in 2019, in May, I believe it was, a resolution was passed to vest 69.0 square meters of land at Browns Beach, Bay Street in the BTI, and this included a drain. This drain originally ran directly into the sea at Bay Street and between two parcels of land. These parcels of land are now amalgamating. It was, however, while processing the formal transfer of the land from the Crown to the BTI that it was observed that because of beach accretion, the original 69 square meters shown as drain has now grown by an additional 24.5 square meters to now a total amount of 93.5 square meters. This is shown in a plan certified on December 4, 2019 by Land Surveyor and recorded in the Lands and Surveys Department also in the same month. This 24.5 square meters now comprises beach land. On the basis of the accreted lands which belong automatically to the owner of the coastal lands, the southwestern boundary of this drain should be properly described in this case as abutting on the sea rather than on lands of the Government of Barbados. In order to avoid any doubt, the Cabinet has agreed to the express vesting of the additional 24.5 square meters of beach land in the BTI in order to support this hotel development. Mr. Speaker, it is on this basis that this resolution is now brought to this House, and I accordingly beg to move that this resolution do now pass.
The question is that this resolution do now pass. Those honourable senators in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This resolution is therefore now passed. That's it.
Mr. President, this now concludes the government business of the day, and I wish to move that the Honourable Senate be adjourned sine die.
The question is, just whisper to her that let me put the question usually raise on there. The question is that the Senate will now adjourn sine die. Those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Sweet adjournment. Senator Cummings.
Mr. President, today I wish to, as we speak on the question of the adjournment, it has been a challenging year. There's nothing that I can tell you that we don't know already. it has been a difficult time, certainly for this House, as we have navigated not just the strictures of the COVID-19 pandemic, but legislating during the midst of a pandemic. And I would wish to take this occasion as we close for the year to express a sincere appreciation of the government of Barbados and certainly all the government senators on this side for the support and the camaraderie that we have enjoyed in this place during this year. We are in no doubt that it has been difficult for everyone, and there have been some unfortunate incidents where we have regretted the way in which we have gone and we wish we could have done differently, or done better. But that notwithstanding, we are very appreciative of all the support we have gotten on many instances from our opposition colleagues, from our independent colleagues, and we have even had the privilege of welcoming a new colleague. And to you, Mr. President, you too have joined us in the midst of this tumultuous year, and you have ably guided us in the latter part of the year in a way that only you can. And we are very appreciative of all your efforts. We also want to express our appreciation to the staff and the team here in Parliament, all of you who have formed an important part of this family that we call the Senate of Barbados. And with those words, Mr. President, I would wish to congratulate all of you and to wish everyone Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and to remind you, as Senator Rogers said before he left, to remember the spirit of community. And in these difficult times, at the end of this year, look out for your neighbor and the person who needs you right next door. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Cummins. Senator Franklin.
Speaking of adjournment, sir, I too would want to wish all of my colleagues the very best for the season, Christmas season, for whoever celebrates Christmas, and whatever season that you celebrate, I wish you that too. Sir, I am extremely grateful to have served in this place, and I hope to continue in the new year with the same strength and vigor that I'm accustomed. I know the government welcomes the opportunities that I provide to them to show them the way when they're going wrong, and they might not express that publicly, but I know privately they will pat me on the back. So, I want the country to be aware. I want the country to be aware that we are colleagues here.
Yes. Indeed.
And we are not enemies in this place. That we are doing our job as we see best. So do not be misguided when people throw barbs at each other. It is not hatred. Sometimes it's out of love.
Senator Grant, you heard that?
Senator Brennan, there's always an exception to prove the rule. There's always an exception to prove the rule. But, sir, in all seriousness, I want to thank you for your support. You've made my efforts in here worthwhile. You let me know that I'm doing a good job. When I don't get the criticism, I worry. And I know you appreciate it. I also want to thank the staff, including the police officers and the government security guards who service us here, trying to keep us safe. They too should deserve an award. And sir, to you, the clerks and the staff of Parliament, but I said especially the police, because people usually forget them. And I think they deserve an award as well, so we will look for one of these bills for them next year. Sir, I also want to wish you and your family all the best for the holidays, particularly. And Mr. Deputy President, I know we were drawing swords, but those swords were blunt. And they were blunt, and they didn't cause any injury. So, sir, Merry Christmas to all and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Honourable Senators, Senator Nurse.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too would recognize, of course, that it was a challenge this year. A challenge, of course, for government, and to keeping things together, a challenge for every one of us in trying to make sure that we kept healthy and that we kept our families strong and healthy as well. But in everything, I think we pulled through. As I said earlier, we had good leadership. We had our ups and downs, of course, here in the Senate, and our disagreements from time to time. But in the spirit, of course, of debate and what was expected, we took it in stride, and we soldiered on with the business at hand. And so at this time of the year, of course, we look forward to a little rest, a little relaxation, a little enjoyment with our families. And so on behalf of all of the independent senators, I wish to thank the opposition leader and the government members on this side, and you, Mr. President, as well as all of the clerk of Parliament and all of his staff for working together and seeing us through this year. And I would only just wish that as we see some light at the end of the tunnel going into next year, that we will have a really wonderful and prosperous year in 2021. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Nurse. I want to associate myself with the remarks made by the leader of government business, the leader of opposition business, and the spokesman for the independent senators. The Deputy President and I want to join in extending our best wishes for this blessed and holy season and into the new year to all honourable senators, to our clerks at the table, the rest of the office staff, our police security, our caterers, our technicians. Let us not forget that in the absence of the technology, we will not be able to hear one another, but more importantly, the fact that through modern technology, every member of the population, whether here or abroad, who wants to hear what we are saying and see what we are doing can do so. And in fact, I used to follow debates in this chamber when it was in Ottawa over the past 2 years. And from time to time, if it was free, I just log in on the internet. It's there on my desk. I follow what's happening. And so it was for me a pleasure and a privilege to, rather than doing it via live stream, to do it face to face. But I feel as if I had been among known characters by virtue of having followed the debate in both places from time to time. But that is a deepening of our democracy that we should not take for granted. And I really want to thank the technical staff here in Parliament, as well as CBC 100.7, the radio broadcast, but on the internet, Parliament channel. And I must congratulate Parliament for being as progressive as it has been over the past 15, 20 years, certainly in more recent times, with the YouTube channel, Parliament TV, placing the order papers, the bills and resolutions on the internet so that you could see what's happening. Because certainly wearing another hat was at ICAP, and I wanted to monitor to see what legislation was coming down the pipe, what matters of interest and import to the business sector, especially accountants, for example. I could see, we may have been, for example, involved in some of the preliminary discussions, but to see what was the bill going before Parliament, we could see the bills in a way that in the days of messengers delivering paper bundles to parliamentarians only, you only know what happened after the fact. And I think that, let us celebrate in this Christmas that opportunity for participatory democracy. I would certainly use the privilege, one of the few privileges I have to speak, to remind that in matters, for example, relating to national honors and awards, and having served for 10 years as a member of the National Honors and Decorations Committee, I'm concerned about the lack of submissions made by the public. The public, after the awards, will criticize and say, but John should have gone who won. No, they know what John did. The members of the committee don't know John or what he did. And I think really it is for members of the public to seize upon these opportunities to make their submissions. And that process now is available online. You can do online submissions. It's a lot easier than before. But let us be all individual lobbyists. We know something good is happening in our community, and let us make sure that others know about it as opposed to lamenting that nobody knows about it when we have not told the story. So I want to commend Parliament and thank the clerks and the technical folks for ensuring that democracy is meaningful and available and accessible to every member of the public. And in that regard, I thank honourable senators for ensuring that the quality of debate and contributions remains high, because our judge is not me, the president. I only preside over matters, but certainly the public will be served because they have full access to us in live motion, will be able to judge us. So I want to thank you, as I thank you all on the floor and those in the wider infrastructure supporting us for your work during this year. It has been a challenge. I can only imagine, not being here myself, the challenges that you have had in seeking to meet when there was little known about COVID, but you still had to pass laws for the good governance of Barbados. And that itself would have been a challenge and a sacrifice. And I thank you. We stayed the course. We're not yet out of the woods. And if we have any doubt about how far we can go, we only have to consider how far we've come. And we can all, in this chamber, out in the wider public, have confidence and go forward with boldness into 2021, knowing that if we have survived this year, we can tackle any year ahead. No retreat, no surrender. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all. The Senate now stands adjourned. Senate aye.